So today I wanted to bring up the conversation between Einstein and Tagore that I have been mentioning in so many of my other videos. It's called Science in the Indian Tradition When Einstein Met Tagore. It's a whole book of which I'll only be reading an extract. It is written by, who's it written by? Donald? Is it written by someone called Donald? No, David L. Gosling. So anyway, it's available online. Lekin, I'm only going to read one abstract from it, and this is the one that was made available to me by my professor Asim Srivastava when I was a student, and then his TA for Indian Ecosophy. So I find this particular extract very interesting because it's a conversation between the two where both of them try to argue for their understanding of reality, of truth. Tagore coming obviously from a place of spirituality, while Einstein coming at it from science. So I'm just gonna read some. So I've opened up the website Brain Picking. So they've given like a introduction to it, which I'll just read out. It goes like, on July 14th, 1930, Einstein welcomed into his house on the outskirts of Berlin the Indian philosopher, musician, and Nobel laureate Rabindranath Tagore. The two proceeded to have one of the most stimulating, intellectually riveting conversations in history, exploring the age-old friction between science and religion. Science and the Indian Tradition When Einstein Met Tagore, which is the name of the book, it recounts the historic encounter amidst a broader discussion of the intellectual renaissance that swept India in the early 20th century, germinating a curious osmosis of Indian traditions and secular Western scientific doctrine. The following excerpt from one of Einstein and Tagore's conversation dances between previously examined definitions of science, beauty, consciousness, and philosophy in a masterful meditation on the most fundamental questions of human existence. So let me begin. So Einstein begins with saying, "Do you believe in the divine as isolated from the world?" Tagore's response to that question is, not isolated. The infinite personality of man comprehends the universe. There cannot be anything that cannot be subsumed by the human personality, and this proves that the truth of the universe is the human truth. I hope that's comprehensible. All he's saying is that no, I don't believe that God is isolated from the world, that he's cut off from the world, because God cannot be felt without human realization, and hence this proves that the truth of the universe is human truth. So all those who've been following my Tagore's theories, at every point he always talks about finding the God inside you and finding God in everything around you. So that's why he believes that God cannot be something outside us and above us or below us or around us. He believes that it's all. He's everywhere. He's omnipresent. So then he says, and then Tagore tries to explain the same thing through scientific phraseology, where he says, I have taken a scientific fact to explain this. Matter is composed of protons and electrons with gaps between them, but matter may seem to be solid. Similarly, humanity is composed of individuals, yet they have their interconnection of human relationship, which gives living unity to man's world. The entire universe is linked up with us in a similar manner. It's a human universe. I have pursued this thought through art, literature, and the religious consciousness of man. So he's essentially talking about how, and I feel like I don't need to explain this, but in response to Einstein's question, I would like to reiterate that he believes in all of us being one union, that the community of individuals, no matter where they reside, whether in India or in the US or UK or whatever, that we're all one. And the God that we look at, the God that we feel is ours. So he cannot be outside of us. He cannot be above us. He's inside us. He is us. And which is why he gives the example of matter being composed of these small, particles, which seem apart but actually make up the whole. So, and his argument is that even as science may seem to be at odds with religion, I mean, it may seem to explain, the existence of God in such a way that makes religion looks like pseudoscience. It is actually not true. That science is actually very much in line with religious thought. And then and then Einstein says, so he offers his conception of the universe, and he says that for him there are two different conceptions about the nature of the universe. He says that there is one where the world is a unity dependent on humanity, and the second is the world as a reality independent of the human factor. So here I would like you to understand what he means when he says these two statements and how they are different from what Tagore is saying. So when he says the world is a unity but it's dependent on humanity, he's talking about a world, he's talking about humanism essentially. And I would really urge you all to look up the term humanism. If I'm not wrong, it emerged during the Enlightenment era. Essentially, that is man being at the center of universe, where rationality, reason, empiricism is the dominant worldview. So he's saying that for me, the world, I can understand universe in two ways, where man comprehends the universe, where he's at the center of the universe and everything around him is dependent on his conception of the universe. And the second is that the world is a reality independent of the human factor, which is to say that the world exists without human intervention, which is to say that if human beings did not exist, the world would be real and it would continue existing as it was, without any, without it being affected in any way by anything we do or say. And so look at the words he's using, dependent and independent. So there is a word he's missing, which is interdependence, which is the one that Tagore is arguing, that if we are a unity, if we are a community, then we are interdependent upon one another. So there is, so that's all I want to say, that this is my laptop's gonna fall. These are the two different angles through which Einstein and then Tagore are approaching the same conversation. Tagore to that says that when our universe is in harmony with man, the eternal, we know it as truth, we feel it as beauty. So he continues to reiterate that the idea of harmony and of unity, and how truth and beauty is felt through that harmony, through that connectedness, and which is why he says we know it as truth, we feel it as beauty. And the know here is not empirical knowledge, and that's why there is a feel that follows, because again he's talking about something that emanates through our bodies, which is not a product of our mind, or if it's he talks about art and literature, so it has something to do with the imagination, right? The left brain, right brain thinking. So he's talking about that part of human existence, which he thinks is the dominant, is the only part of human existence that can ever seek and feel and believe that there is a truth, not the empirical rational mind. And so that's why Einstein says to that this is a purely human conception of the universe. And then to that, Tagore says there can be no other conception. This world is a human world. The scientific view of it is also that of a scientific man. There is some standard of reason and enjoyment which gives it truth, the standard of the eternal man, whose experiences are through our experiences. So, again, Tagore continues to argue that science is a product of human of human imagination, which is not to say that it's fiction, that it's not real, or that we can't count on it, but it is to say that he's sort of trying to overturn the meaning of humanism on its head, where he's saying ki, yes, sure, we are at the center of the universe, but not in the way that you think. It is not to say that we're superior, and it is not to say that the way in which we experience the world is through our rationality, but that we are part of a larger whole, and we experience that and we feel that, and our individual selves are constantly seeking. So when he says, wherever he talks about, one second. Okay, that comes in later. No, he does say, right, when the universe is harmony with man. Remember the whole point where this, he makes the same point in sadhana when he talks about the self and how the individual self is in constantly seeking that which is outside of it, the consummation of the individual with the universe. So that's what he's talking about, that even if you think that man is trying to understand the world, he's not trying to do it through his rationality. He's trying to do it, he's not trying to understand it as much as he is to or rather Tagore is trying to tell you that the understanding that you think, it's not an empirical understanding. Do you know what I mean? That's why he's talking about experience. And so Einstein says this is the realization of human entity. Tagore says, yes, one eternal entity. We have to realize it through our emotions and activities. We realize the supreme man has no individual limitations through our limitations. Science is concerned with that which is not confined to individuals. It is the impersonal human world of truths. Religion realizes these truths and links them up with our deeper needs. Our individual consciousness of truth gains universal significance. Religion applies values to truth, and we know this truth through our as good through our harmony with it. So he goes on to explain that science is interested in facts, which is the impersonal world of truth, which is not to say that those facts are any less true, but they are not true enough for them to be the truth, right? So clearly it's very obvious that Einstein is arguing for processes like gravity, things that exist without man. Like man discovered gravity, he didn't invent it. So for him, that gravity existed independent of man. So that's a truth that he cannot deny, and that's a truth that has nothing to do with him. But Tagore is arguing for a different kind of truth. He's talking about values such as beauty, love, such as, things that cannot exist without the human emotion, that cannot exist without the communion, without the union of two individuals coming together and then seeking the whole, the infinite, the universe. And so Einstein goes on to say, truth, then, or beauty is not independent of man. Tagore says no. Einstein says, so if there were no human beings anymore, the Apollo of Belvedere would no longer be beautiful. Tagore says no. Einstein says, okay, I agree with this regard of beauty, in regard to the conception of beauty, but not with truth. And Tagore says, why? Truth is realized through man. Einstein says, I can't prove that my conception is right, but that's my religion. Tagore says, beauty is in the ideal of perfect harmony, which is in the universal being. Truth, the perfect comprehension of the universal mind. We individuals approach it through our own mistakes and blunders, through our own accumulated experiences, through our own illumined consciousness. How otherwise can we know the truth? So Tagore is idealizing these values. He's talking about how these values cannot be sought in mere numbers, cannot be understood with empirical knowledge, that they are a comprehension, they are a realization, they are an experience, they're not an experiment. And that a level of intuitive knowledge, a level of intuitive connectedness is required to be able to understand what he's really saying. One second, where did I go? Einstein then says, I can't prove scientifically that truth must be conceived as a truth that is valid, independent of humanity, but I believe in it firmly. Again, think of things like gravity. I believe, for instance, that the Pythagorean theorem in geometry states something that is approximately true, independent of the existence of man. And anyway, if there is a reality independent of man, then there is also a truth relative to this reality. And so, in the same way, the negation of the first engenders a negation of the existence of the latter. So, he is essentially just saying that if you believe that there is something without man, then that means that there is a truth without man. So, um, so in that way, if that doesn't exist, so does the latter. So his point is that even if so remember, he talks about two conceptions of truth, one which is dependent on man, the other which is independent of man. So he says even if one is not true, then automatically we fall back to the second. So he's trying to say that in every way that I explain my religion, my truth, I'm right. And also he says that you're wrong. Very nicely, very cordially, very gracefully, he says, you're wrong. Then Tagore says, truth, which is one with the universal being, must essentially be human. Otherwise, whatever we individuals realize is true can never be called truth. He says it must essentially be human. And I'm sure this must be very jarring to hear, because if truth is human, if truth if it is felt through human subjectivity, and if human subjectivity is if it's subjective, right? Subjective means that there is no objective answer. It's not the same. It's different for everyone. Then how can it be true? So, yeah. Then he says, at least the truth which is described as scientific and which only can be reached through the process of logic, in other words, by an organ of thoughts which is human. According to Indian philosophy, there is a Brahman, the absolute truth, which cannot be conceived by the isolation of the individual mind or described by words, but can only be realized by the complete merging of the individual to its infinity. But then, such a truth cannot belong to science. The nature of truth which we are discussing here is an appearance, that is to say, what appears to be true to the human being and therefore is human and may be called Maya or illusion. So that is why he believes that the world of truth is human, and it's not human in as much as it is different for everyone, but it is in fact the same, because he believes that when you realize your union with God, when you're a realized self, you will be filled with infinite love and joy, and that is that is indisputable. However, the impersonal world of science, which looks at the world through its appearance, philosophy, which Indian philosophy, right? Which Indian philosophy would call Maya, cannot be believed to be the truth. So both of them again are arguing for very different kinds of truth, which is not to say that one is right or wrong. They're just saying different things. One is arguing for facts, the other is arguing for values. One is arguing for arriving at the truth through experiments, where each experiment would yield the same result, while the other is arguing for experience, which again would yield the same result. However, for him that's an objective truth. For him it's a subjective truth. It's objective for Einstein because there is no human factor that can influence or delegitimize gravity. For him it's a subjective truth because it is realized by every human being, and it's not subjective because it's different, but it's subjective simply because the human factor must necessarily be involved in realizing and reaching that enlightened truth. Okay, so then Einstein says, so according to your conception, which may be the Indian conception, it is not the illusion of the individual but of humanity as a whole. Tagore says, the species also belongs to a unity, to humanity. Therefore, the entire human mind realizes the truth. The Indian or the European mind meet in a common realization. Then Einstein says, the word species is used in German for all human beings. As a matter of fact, even the apes and the frogs would belong to it. Tagore says, in science, we go through the discipline of eliminating the personal limitations of our individual minds and thus reach the comprehension of truth, which is the mind of the universal mind. Again, leaving behind the ego to seek the universe, or if not just the ego, even exceeding the self and seeking and finally coming together with the universe. Einstein. The problem begins where the truth is independent of our consciousness. So Tagore obviously from the very beginning has said no. So Tagore here says, what we call truth lies in the rational harmony between the subjective and objective aspects of reality, both of which belong to the superpersonal man. So Tagore never really denies the objective reality. He just says that there is more to the truth than science can ever offer. That I'm not saying Pythagoras' theorem is not true. I'm not saying gravity isn't real, but that's just the mere surface of the truth, of what is really the truth. For him, truth lies behind the appearance. It lies in the meaning of what is Pythagoras' theorem. What does it mean to what does gravity mean? It's not simply the existence of gravity that he's concerned with. So Einstein says, even in our everyday life, we feel compelled to ascribe a reality independent of man to the objects we use. We do this to connect the experiences of our senses in a reasonable way. For instance, if nobody is in the house, yet that table remains where it is. So he's essentially saying that constantly we try to sort of find a reality that is outside of us. And I guess he says that we do this to be able to sort of keep ourselves sane, to not keep ourselves in check, keep ourselves reasonable, to not constantly believe that to not get trapped in our own universe where what I see is all I see and is all there is. Which is why he says, for instance, if nobody is in the house, the table remains where it is. And then Tagore says, yes, it remains outside the individual mind, but not the universal mind. That even if you and I can't see it, somebody up there is seeing it. Again, up there is not literally up there, but somewhere around us, there is some external consciousness that is still able to, comprehend the existence of that table. So the table which I perceive is perceptible by the same kind of consciousness which I possess. So Einstein says, if nobody would be in the house, the table would exist all the same. But this is already illegitimate from your point of view, because we can't explain what it means that the table is there independently of us. So now Einstein has caught Tagore. He's like, but if the table exists and okay, let's say there is some higher consciousness which is able to perceive it, nobody can make meaning of it, and then what you're arguing for is exactly that. Then how is it the truth? How are you able to explain this? So Einstein goes on to say, our natural point of view in regard to the existence of truth apart from humanity cannot be explained or proved, but it is a belief which nobody can lack, no primitive beings either. We attribute to truth a superhuman objectivity. It is indispensable for us, this reality which is independent of our existence and our experience and our mind, though we cannot say what it means. Yeah, so he essentially continues to say that we don't need to attribute meaning to reality for it to be real. But Tagore says that science has proven that the table is a solid object in appearance, and therefore that which the human mind perceives as a table would not exist if that mind were not. But at the same time, it must be admitted that the ultimate physical reality is nothing but a multitude of separate revolving centers of electric force, also belonging to human mind. In apprehension of truth, there is an eternal conflict between the universal human mind and the same mind confined in the individual. The perpetual process of reconciliation is being carried on in our science philosophy, in our ethics. In any case, if there is any truth absolutely unrelated, then for us it is absolutely non-existing. So he's denying any reality which a man can't perceive, which a man can't experience. For him, that reality is non-existence because if you can't find meaning in it, then it cannot be true. Then it is meaningless. It is not even Maya. It's outside the purview of our consciousness. And if everything is consciousness, and if that resides outside of it, then for us it doesn't exist. The universe cannot perceive it. So then he continues to say, it's not difficult to imagine a mind to which the sequence of things happens, not in space but only in time, like the sequence of notes in music. For such a mind, such conception of reality is akin to the musical reality in which Pythagorean geometry can have no meaning. There is the reality of the paper, infinitely different from the reality of literature. So For the kind of mind possessed by the moth which eats that paper, literature is absolutely non existent. Yet, for man's mind, literature has a greater value of truth than the paper itself. In a similar manner, if there be some truth which has no sensual or rational relationship to the human mind, it will ever remain as nothing so long as we are human beings. So he essentially goes on to say that there are things that exist not just in time but in space, which is to say, today I can sit and write a book on a piece of paper. I can begin writing on a piece of paper, and it becomes a part of a literary canon. For those who don't believe in reality, or who believe reality is confined to time but not space, will be concerned with the reality of the paper but not of the literature, which has timeless value. And so he's saying that for me, truth lies in the timelessness of things, in the eternity of things. How what can be written 10, 20, hundreds of years ago can still be relevant today. I have no interest in the paper because that is mere Maya. The book itself, the physical reality of the book, has no interest to me, but what it contains, how it how it makes me feel, that's my truth. And so, which is why he says that if there is a truth which has no sensuous or rational relation to the human mind, so he does take in science. For him, like I said, science is a mere physical reality, the moral, the sensual, the realm where beauty and truth lies. It lies beyond science. And it cannot be accessed through empiricism. and so this is the last line of this excerpt where Einstein says, because Tagore says, right, that there is no reality outside of consciousness. So Einstein says, well, then clearly I'm more religious than you are. Which I found to be so so clever and so ironical, because Einstein is not being anti-religious, but he's definitely arguing for science. But he believes in something that Tagore does not, so that makes him more religious. But then, interestingly, the day I was reading this excerpt, I happened to find a small quote by Einstein, which I think I was meant to find, which I think all of you will be very interested in listening to. So it goes something like this. Einstein says, so this is the end of the excerpt, okay? This is the end of the conversation between Tagore and Einstein. Now I'm only talking about this quote that I happened to find like a couple of days ago by Einstein. So it says, a human being is a part of the whole called by us a universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion, to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. So this was said by him. This was found in, so it says, Albert Einstein's desk at the Princeton Institute for Advanced Study as he left it before he died, April 18, 1955. So in this whole conversation, you're watching, you're listening to this debate between Einstein and Tagore, where Tagore is arguing for, Tagore is being Tagore, and Einstein is saying, but then what about this? And then here I present to you Einstein echoing Tagore's thoughts, a scientific man echoing the thoughts of a so-called anti-scientific writer, poet, a romantic, mystic. Which is to say that Einstein was actually never in disagreement with Tagore. He was just arguing, which is to say that you can be saying different things in time and space, but have the same internal belief system. All he was probably trying to do was give Tagore a hard time, but this proves that Einstein never himself believed that there is a real contention between science and faith. That he's also talking about how we need to liberate ourselves from our own egos, from our own little worlds, and how we believe that we are separated from the rest, this optical delusion of the consciousness. And how we need to widen our circle of compassion. He doesn't talk about increase your empirical knowledge. He's saying widen your circle of compassion. That is how you will be truly human, how you will be a better scientist. You will be a better scientist if you have faith, if you have humanity, if you have compassion, if you're full of love. So that is what I would like to end these videos on, and I would like you to think about what you heard. And I'm sorry if I wasn't able to do science a lot of justice. I'm not a science student, but I only try to explain what Tagore understands as science and what Einstein himself was saying about science.